Either that seller can go and do like a loan modification, meaning that they're modifying the loan, and this in particular seller got a loan modification. So those arrears was actually, they created a silent second. HUD came in and bought out the arrears. So that underlying first lien position is still in place. Nothing ever changed with that. What happened was, and that's like $329,000, right? They created a silent second with the arrears. HUD bought out and cashed up their arrears and made a silent second, okay? There was no other loan terms to it other than that silent second has to be paid at close if the property ever sells in the future. You see what I'm saying? We didn't pay off that first underlying loan. We didn't pay off the second lien position either. We just took the property over subject to, meaning those stayed in place. The seller, I believe, got $3,000. The wholesaler got $6,000. And I paid all the closing costs. So I paid the seller, I paid the wholesaler, and I paid like the closing costs, all the other miscellaneous fees and stuff like that. So for me to acquire this property, it was, my cash to close was like a little over $10,000. I also had to pay the 1 month's mortgage payment outside of closing. So really it was like $13,000 for the upfront acquisition of this property. So right now there's tons of sellers in today's market that are in the same position as this seller is, meaning that they're not able to make their mortgage payments anymore. They might have had a hardship, they lost their job. Maybe that they had a relative living with them, helping them to pay bills. Maybe that person moved out. There's tons of sellers out there in today's market that are in this same exact financial position.
But you're still responsible for the loan, the first loan, for the loan.
The loan stays in place in their name. We're purchasing the property with the loan in place, and that loan stays in their name. No one ever sells it. Nothing ever happens to that loan. It stays in place in their name. Where the big benefit is to me as an investor is, think about when they bought the home. They bought this at a 4.75 interest rate. Okay. In today's market, me as an investor, if I go to a bank, Bank of America, they're not going to give me a 4.5 interest rate. Plus, they're going to want tons of closing fees. They're going to want 20-30% down. They're going to want all my financial records, my tax return, have to do a whole, you know how it is when you get a bank loan. It's a headache. So how does that work for me is because I get to take over their underlying loan at a 4.75 interest rate, which they bought a year or two ago, and I wouldn't have never got that in today's market. You see what I'm saying? So the loan stays in place in their name against the property. We don't ever pay that off.
So the refi or the modification was only for the arrears?
The modification, they did a loan modification for the arrears. Yeah.
Only the arrears, because
Yeah.
I worked with some pre-foreclosures and they were vets. They couldn't, the refi was double what their original rate was. So the silent second, there's no refinance. They didn't do any refinance. No, there's no refinance. It's just a loan modification. The seller, when you're in distress, you're actually able to apply for what's called a loan modification. Right. What happens is, and by the way, loan modifications are very invasive. There's a lot of documentation. They have to fill out an application. I always tell sellers, if you want to do a loan modification, get a foreclosure specialist involved and have them help facilitate the loan modification. Because a lot of sellers, A, they'll fill out the application wrong and they won't give the right information. And or B, they just get denied because they're just lost in the whole process, right? So they have to go to the bank and say, hey, can you modify my loan so I can keep my home, in other words. And so what they did in this point, HUD bought out the arrears of I think $30,000 or $40,000, and what they did was like, hey, this money, Mr. Seller, is not due today. We're just going to create a silent second, put it on as a silent second on the property, and if the property ever sells in the future, like now when I sell it, one of the things I have to pay for is that 40K, right? Because that's still against. It's going to be a line item on the closing.
Yeah, it's just going to be a line item, but I still have to factor that in, right? That's a lot of money.
Yes.
You know, so I have to factor that in.
So your name's on the deed.
My name's on the deed. Yes. So when you own a piece of property, right? You get a mortgage instrument and you get a note, the note IOU, right? The other instrument to a piece of real estate is the deed. The deed is the person, whoever's the deed's in, is the actual receipt of the property. That's the person who owns the property. If you went to Publix, Walmart, a supercenter, and you bought groceries, you get a receipt. Well, that's the same thing in real estate. You get a deed. That deed, the only thing that transfers and the only thing that changes is the deeded ownership. The name stays in place against the mortgage. The mortgage payments still stay the same. Everything still stays the same there. Nothing changes, nothing moves. The deed now goes to my name and my company's name.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? And now I continue to start making these payments on behind.
Everybody with the same amount.
Yeah, same amount.
Exactly
Yes,
the same
yes. In this scenario, yes, it's the same amount, right? Now, here's the cool thing. Now, for that seller, what most likely would happen in most instances would be they go into foreclosure, and guess what? They're done. You get to the bank now takes the home. The only person winning there is the bank. So what do we do here? We created a win-win situation. The wholesaler got paid $6,000. The seller got paid $3,000, and they got to walk away from the financial burden that's been the biggest headache. And then and then me as the investor, I get to now have another property, right, in my portfolio. You see what I'm saying?
But correct me if I'm wrong. They can't apply for another mortgage till you sell the house.
So if somebody's in foreclosure, you have two scenarios, and this is the same thing you asked me the other day, and I'll say it again because I answered this for you already.
I know.
So it's okay. If they're in a pre-foreclosure, think about this. If they haven't made payments, that means their credit is ruined.
Right.
No bank is going to qualify them, period. So it has nothing to do with me.
No, I understand.
Now, there's another flip side to that. Let's say you are, again, there's two reasons why somebody's going to do subject to. One is because they're in financial pain, and two is because they're low equity. Those are the two main reasons why somebody's going to do a subject to transaction.
Okay.
If they're a low equity, that means there is no financial pain. They just can't sell their home on the market because there's no equity, right?